What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. And man, before we get started, because I really want to get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Please just keep those comments respectful. And if you want to support your favorite podcaster, yours truly, the place to do that will be in the episode description. So the link to do that will be in the episode description. Make sure y'all support your boy. I got bills to pay and a family to feed. Anyways, speaking of feeding, basketball lovers, hoop lovers, we ate good this weekend. We ate good this weekend. When it came to the women's Elite Eight, and look, the men's Elite Eight was pretty damn great too, with some fantastic finishes, and that's setting up for a fantastic Final Four. And I'm gonna, talk about the men's on Friday, but tonight episode we focusing on the women, man, because going into the tournament, look, and by the way, let me just point out my bracket for the most part is totally busted for the most part. Um, because obviously I had LSU winning in my bracket, so uh, yesterday's results kind of tempered that. But we got good basketball, and I mean, even though the South Carolina Indiana game was a blowout for most of the game, it started towards the end. It became a nail biter, pretty much, and South Carolina had to. Claw their way out and just, push forward, and they got the win. They made the plays late to be able to pull away. But them and we know how dominant South Carolina can be, and that freshman they have, full Wally, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. As a person with a name like Trajan and spelled like Juan, I know how that can feel. So much love and respect, and apologies if I did mispronounce that. But then you got Cardoza and what she can do on the inside, and just being a dominating force, not just offensively. Obviously everything if the team is smart, and there were instances where they weren't doing that well, getting her the ball. I mean, she shot 10 from 12 from the field, and Andrea Carter and Shanae Ogwimike, who I got to give those ladies loves, and Ellie Duncan too, the way they've kind of been the lead commentary team, lead analyst team, I guess you can say, in terms of pregame and halftime and post game analysis of what we're seeing, and the way I think they're able to educate the masses. Obviously, they have such a great chemistry, the three of them, right? But the fact that you know they'll go to the screen and show you some of the actions that these teams are running, how they're getting their best players the ball, or how they're defending the opposing team's best players, and maybe some of the things that they should be doing better, and opportunities and ways they can do that, or you know what are some of the things that they're doing extremely well, and who are some of these players that are stepping up. Yeah, we're familiar with the stars, but they're shedding light on some of your quote unquote role players that don't always get the love and adoration, but are extremely important um, to what the team can do. But anyways, let me get back to the players on the court. And like I said, the way Cardoza can just take over the game offensively and defensively, and have things just kind of revolve around her be kind of um, that center of gravity, so to speak, where she's going to control the defensive end, because you don't really want to attack her inside, because she's such a good rim protector. And actually, sometimes, and this is where she switched on a guard, she can hold her own a little bit, does really well hedging on screens. So that way her guards can kind of get back in front of their players that they're defending. But obviously on offense, we know the scoring, we know the post ability, we know that she has, she'll take, that mid-range jumper, that baseline jumper, but it's the passing. And one thing that I've always said South Carolina is going to have to bring to become national champion again is they're going to have to bring their shooters. We know the domination inside, that they have. I think Watson's the last name of the other player that's dominant. I think she had 4 or 5 blocks against Indiana, and some of them were on a perimeter, just kind of closing out on 3-point shots. So it's showing her athletic ability as well as a key defender. But we know the post players for Carolina. Coach Dawn got them ready. He got them ready. They're going to bring it. They're going to bring it on the defensive boards, on the defensive protecting the rim. They're going to bring it on the offensive boards, definitely. And when they have the ball in their hands, they know what to do with it. And more times than not, they can put the ball in the basket. But again, like Cardoza and a lot of the other bigs, where they truly show their value, right, is their ability to pass the ball to open shooters. And here's the thing, guys. The defense is going to play to give up 3-point shots against South Carolina. And will they be ready to knock down shots? Their last trip to the Final Four last year, they weren't so ready to knock down short shots. And while I think they were the better team, they ended up falling to Iowa because Iowa happened to make more shots. Their role players galvanized around Caitlin Clark, who just also happened to score 41 points, actually had a 40-point triple-double. I think it was 41 or 40, 11 and 12 or something like that. But her teammates came to play, and the others for South Carolina didn't come to play. And so now South Carolina finds themselves in a position again to vie for a national championship. You get to the Final Four, you win that game, you're in the national championship. You have a chance to make even more history, as I think the last team to go undefeated was in 2015, 2016, something like that. That was UConn. So you have a chance to put your name in the record books. And so those shooters are going to have to be ready. I think the bigs are going to do what they do, but at the end of the day, we know what the defense will give up, and they're not going to want to give up easy baskets to the bigs inside. They're going to want to force those guards to hit threes. They're going to force them, when they do close out, try to contest threes, but also run them off the line, kind of try to make them do things with the ball. And, you know, um, South Carolina is actually going to be matching up against North Carolina State, who I wouldn't say they're a Cinderella because they did come in as a 3 seed, but I think they beat some teams that we weren't expecting them to beat, especially coming off an Elite Eight win versus one of the #1 seeds in Texas, a team that some people thought would obviously get to the Final Four, but also had the size and the depth and the roster to take out South Carolina and get themselves to a national title game and perhaps win it and bring a title to Austin. So it wasn't like there was a small feat, or it was a small feat for North Carolina State to pull up the upset. And they won by double digits, won by 10 points, 76-66. And they got some ballers too. Nobody's really been talking, and that's me included. Nobody really has been talking about North Carolina State. And I'll admit, when it comes to me, it's just I haven't watched them play enough. So many games in a college basketball season, you have to kind of really pick and choose the teams and the players you want to watch. And that's what's so beautiful about March Madness and the tournament, is that you start to get exposed to teams, right, that you didn't really watch much during the season. And now you really get to see how, their roster makeup and how they get things done. And so while North Carolina State's ascension to get to this moment might be a surprise to me and others, I think there's many people, especially within their fan base, that aren't surprised, much like they aren't surprised their men's team has made it to the Final Four and how those guys are playing. So it's something in the water down there where these young women, they have come to play. And like I said, I think I've been sleeping on them. I think a lot of people in the media have been sleeping on them. To be quite honest with you, I think it was a foregone conclusion that South Carolina is just going to walk into the national championship. And even I was looking at the bracket, and I was like, damn, I get it, the #1 overall seed, but their bracket looked kind of light, especially given what we saw in the games yesterday and what that bracket was, right? I was like, I don't know. Like, South Carolina, I guess this is what going undefeated gets you. It gets you an easier path, so to speak, to the national title game and the chance added. But like I said, I don't think we can sleep on North Carolina State any longer. And if we get the South Carolina women's team that blew a 22-point lead instead of the one that grew a 22-point lead and then ultimately ran away with the game in the fourth quarter, what team are we going to get? And if we get the team that couldn't generate offense and had a lot of turnovers and wasn't getting defensive stops and wasn't stopping the three ball against Indiana to let Indiana back into that game and almost take the lead and win, right? Could North Carolina State truly be that Cinderella in terms of the team that they'd be knocking off in South Carolina? I mean, when you look at these folks play, it almost feels like the KD Warriors, where it's like, are we sure that this team is going to lose? It's almost a foregone conclusion that one, they're going to get to the national championship, right? And 1A, that they're going to win it. It's just like, why even try? And you can really get sucked into that mentality when, obviously they've earned it. They're the most dominant team right now, and honestly was one of the most dominant teams last year. Before, obviously they had one of those bad games where they got outplayed, and that could be North Carolina State being this year's Iowa, right? Where, hey, they're not expected really to win this game, maybe put up a fight, but hey, North Carolina State can make that thing happen. And I'll get to my predictions in just a little bit. But first, or secondly, I guess I have to talk about those matchups we saw last night. You obviously had the national championship rematch between LSU and Iowa, and it was a great game. Unfortunately, and look, Angel Reese played her ass off. I don't care what y'all say. She played her ass off. 17 points, 20 rebounds. Yeah, she struggled from the field in the second half. I think a lot of that was one, her injury. She injured her ankle really bad, could barely put weight on it. And I don't think she was ever right after that. And she was like, she had scored like 8 or 10 straight points before that, right? And then she hurts her ankle, contesting a Caitlin Clark layup, goes to the sideline for a little bit, comes back, and you could tell she could barely put weight. She was running weird and stuff. But again, when she got the ball in the paint, she was still able to beat Angel Reese. I think what hurt in the second half was one, passing angles by the guard, unwillingness to pass by the guards. I just think the guard play for LSU really let them down. Flau'jae definitely, poured it in. I think she had 18 points to finish the night. But I think there were moments where I was asking myself, where is she? Where is Flau'jae, the young lady who has taken this tournament by storm? Like if LSU had gone on to win the national championship again, I'm picking Flau'jae to win the most valuable player of the tournament because she was bringing on both ends, and I think she was missing in action a little bit. And so that was a little disappointing. And I don't know. So I'm not so sure that that was on her as much as it was just the game plan, maybe. But I was just kind of getting a little ticked off in that I felt like Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow weren't getting the proper touches. And that's not saying that they're going to be the one to score every possession, right? But I just think when you have two extremely talented offensive post players, you got to kind of feed them and then play around that. And I think the guards are trying to play outside in instead of allowing the game to be inside out. But nevertheless, there were stretches where LSU turned it up defensively, where they turned it up offensively, being able to get easy baskets at the rim, obviously getting to the line and things of that nature. But Iowa, they just didn't quit. Like when I say we had some generational games where you have, again, yes, a national championship rematch, but you had last night 4 of the hottest names in college basketball going for you. Angel Reese at LSU, Caitlin Clark at Iowa, Juju Watkins at USC, Paige Beckers at UConn. Like you had 4 of the hottest names in the game, and they were going at each other. And you just love to see that. It was great for the game of basketball, let alone women's basketball, to have that matchup. That's why I said, man, that bracket was crazy. Like, how do we get this in one bracket? You would think 1 or 2 of these teams are going to be on South Carolina's side of the bracket, and they weren't. So, man, like I said, we were eating good, and it was a real good game. And like I said, LSU made a bunch of runs to really get themselves in the game. But you saw that, hey, those shooters for Iowa came to play. They did. Caitlin balled out, put up 40, just killing it from the three-point line, pulling up from Saskatchewan. But Kay Martin, I think, poured in 20. Gabby Marshall, I think, poured in 9 or something like that, and she was playing phenomenal defense on Haley Van Lith and Flau'jae Johnson. And then you had Stokey, who obviously didn't have a big game offensively, but kind of being a big body, and she got into some foul trouble, but I think she was kind of a mainstay, and obviously Caitlin Clark trusts her on some of these pick and rolls. But the MVP from that game really was number 44, O'Grady, I think was her name, because she was able to be a big body, right? And we know that as dominant as LSU is, they struggle when the opposing team has a big body that can bang with Angel, that can bang. And she was able to do that. And so, and when I say they struggle with that, like we've seen the matchups against South Carolina, right? Where South Carolina has bigs galore and they make it tough for Angel Reese. They make it tough for Anissa Morrow. And they put so much pressure on the guards to have to generate offense. And I think that's what was happening with Iowa. I think they said, hey, Angel's hurt clearly, but that doesn't mean we're going to let her dominate us. So even though she was hobbled, every time she touched the ball, there were 3 and 4 people swiping at the ball. Like, hey, no, you can't score. And yeah, she was 1 for 12. And again, I hate that tip shots count as shot attempts, but it is what it is. But it was 4 bodies around her on every touch. And I think that's a credit to Iowa's game plan. And one, their bigs being able to kind of really stay in the game. When Stokey went out with some early foul trouble, I think she had 2 fouls in the first half and then picked up her third really early in the second half. And for O'Grady to come in and play relatively clean and not get in foul trouble, because here's the thing. If O'Grady picks up maybe 2 or 3 quick fouls, now your 2 bigs are out of the game. And guess what? You probably got to go small against the Tigers of LSU. You're not going to win that game. And now LSU has a chance to blow the game open. So I thought the others for Iowa really came to play one making shots. But I think what won them the game, truthfully, and yeah, look, Caitlin Clark was phenomenal. But I think the play of their bigs to just be available and not be liabilities on the court really did wonders for them. And let's just talk about it. Y'all need to put respect on Caitlin Clark's name. Gilbert Arenas should never be allowed to speak about Caitlin Clark. How do you stop her? What are some things to do? Because guess what? If a Hall of Fame coach and Kim Mulkey couldn't figure it out, if all of these Hall of Fame coaches and top-notch coaches that have Division I jobs in college basketball could not figure it out because she happens to be the all-time leading scorer in both men's and women's Division I basketball history, there is no figuring it out. Her only enemy is the rim. That is her only enemy. And we need to start putting some respect on it here. Well, yeah, like, oh yeah, Juju go face her. She gonna pick her up full court and she gonna stop this. That is nonsense. It's nonsense. Yeah, Juju would have gotten hers, but guess what? Caitlin Clark don't get hers too, because that young lady is unreal. And again, we can talk about, oh, well, the shots, and they are difficult shots. They're not difficult for her. I sent out a tweet yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I happen to be thinking about Steph Curry. And no, I'm not about to do the whole comparison where a woman's doing great and you compare it to a man. But I was just thinking about the same, I guess, narratives that was being put around Steph when he was coming into his own as a superstar, and being similar to Caitlin in that. I said one of the reasons why Steph broke the record for all-time three-point makes. Yeah, it's because he's a phenomenal three-point shooter. But I felt like the first half of his career, when he's pulling up from his parking lot, people was like, "Oh man, that's an inefficient shot. That won't last. That won't last. He's gonna miss," and he never missed. And you kept saying, "Oh, well, that's just a difficult shot. That's just a crazy shot." But guess what? When you practice that shot every day, every night, it's not crazy for you. And so when I was looking at what Caitlin Clark was doing, she just made it look easy. And you know why? Because it is easy for her. Because she practices it, right? This is her game. It might look like a stupid shot. And I think sometimes there were some bad shots in the sense of when in the shot clock they were taken, or if there was a drive to the basket or a mid-range available. But all in all, what she was doing, man, was phenomenal because she's a phenomenal player. And look, to me, and we talk about who's the greatest ever. Do I think she's the greatest ever? No, I've seen a lot of greats. But is she one of them ones? Is she somebody that you got to put on the same page? Hell yeah. And if you out here saying, no, she not all that, and that shit ain't going to translate to the WNBA, you out your damn mind. Because her skill set can translate. I think a lot of players, I think Angel's skill set can translate to the league. I think there's some things that she have to work on. I think there's going to be some things that Caitlin has to work on the next level. But the one thing we don't take into account, right, is that they're going to be playing with better players. Everybody wants to think about who they're playing against, right? We never take into account that they're playing with better players. So do they have to take as many of these shots as they've been taking? No. Do they have to be responsible for 68 to 70% of the offense anymore? Probably not, at least not by year 2 or year 3, especially in the new age of the WNBA where there's a lot more movement than I've ever remember seeing in the league. And you're having players starting to link up and really kind of create not necessarily super teams, but just some really, really good teams. And so that could be a situation with Caitlin. There'll be a situation with Angel. But again, that rematch, it almost felt unfair. Like this is just an Elite Eight matchup. Like this not even Final Four. We're not even playing to see who goes to the national championship. Like this was a national championship game. And we got it in the Elite Eight. That just shows you how dominant and how much the game has grown to where we're getting these matchups in the Elite Eight, man. And look, I've been a part of a bunch of matchups where I've watched as a kid, but to know again the hottest names, the star power that's associated with some of these programs, we got that to see who was going to the Final Four, not in the Final Four trying to get to the national championship or in the national championship. And we got that. We got the atmosphere. We got the game. I felt like the referees, for the most part, did a good job not getting in the way and making it about themselves. And we got to see star players be star players. And my only regret is that I wish Angel wasn't having to play the second half on one leg. That's the only thing. Like I wish he was fully healthy, fully loaded. Like that was the one thing. Guess what? She was still dominant. And yeah, there were some other factors like I thought Anissa Morrow should have been more involved. I thought Flaw J could have taken over. She scored 18. I thought she could have scored 30 if she wanted to. I truly feel that. I feel like if she wanted to, she could have scored 30. Hailey Van Lith, don't even need to say it. You know what it is. Get better in the summer. Um, all the best to you. But I think this was a learning experience for the Lady Tigers. I think there are some players that maybe felt like, well, my role is this and I can't take that on. But for me, like I said, when Angel was hobbling, I think everybody should have said, okay, one, yeah, we still got to give her touches because she's still, look, when she gets the ball in the paint, she still controls so much. But we weren't getting any cuts. We weren't getting any back screens, none of that. Like just no motion. Everybody just stood still watching Angel with the ball. And knowing she's on one leg, she can't necessarily be as shifty or even as powerful as she is in the paint. But she can still be a decoy. And I felt like the team didn't play off of that as well as I would have liked, and I'm pretty sure they would have liked to do. And so that's something to keep in mind. But again, uh, I think the others for Iowa, they had it on their mind. I mean, number 3, I think her name's Falter or something like that. Like she was just doing shit. I was like, who is you? Like I ain't never seen you act like this before. Like she jab stepping, she taking people to the rim, she hitting fadeaway, she's shooting from 30 like she Caitlin Clark. Man, I saw Kay Martin hit like a one-legged Dirk out and she hit all that. I said, look, it's their night, man. like when the role players are doing star player shit, like, come on, it's just their night. And so you got to tip off your cap to Iowa, obviously being able to take on the win. But I think you got to tip off LSU and just a fantastic season they had. Like last year, they were, I guess, under the radar. I mean, it's hard to be under the radar when Coach Kim Mulkey is your head coach. but under the radar enough to where people didn't think they were going to make as much noise in the SEC, and they damn sure didn't think they was going to make as much noise in the tournament. And everybody was wanting to have them shut up and stuff like that, and that just didn't happen last year. And Angel spoke to it. She was like, ever since I won the national championship, I've had no peace, and it's just because this negativity and this hate that just felt like a cloud over them. And then obviously the 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 politics given with their coach doesn't help much either. So it's a distraction either way, where it's outside folks attacking players. It's maybe the coach saying something that brings an attention to the program that maybe you don't want, or outside entities attacking her from stuff years past that one we already knew about, and it really wasn't that bad, if we want to be honest. So um, but so like given what they went through from off season, we're talking about the injuries, having to remove players from the program, obviously the external factors and just the media attention. One, yes, the good shit, the good attention, right? But even just some of the negativity and just the hate and the racism and the sexism surrounding that program, you gotta tip your cat, tip your hat off to them on a hell of a season, to be quite honest with you. Because I think a weak team, they would have faltered. They would have been playing in NIT somewhere. But that just kind of shows their mentality as individual players, as a team. And look, y'all can say what y'all want about Coach Mulkey, but I think she's one hell of a basketball coach and a leader in the locker room. And I think she was able to show that. I think, there were instances where I think last night she got out coached, and I think she would say that if you asked her really. Probably won't say that in public. She probably would. But I think she knows that, hey, I could have done better and put my players in better positions to succeed. And I think she's somebody that takes that on the chin and is not one of those coaches that likes to throw their players under the bus. But shout out to LSU. Shout out to Iowa for moving on. Y'all gave us one hell of a damn rematch. Y'all should be proud. And look, when I saw these matchups, I was like, LSU, Iowa, that's the story. They got the greatest storyline of it all. For UConn versus USC. Paige Buckets versus Juju. That is real hoops, my friends. That is real hoops. That's the hoops that I grew up on playing in the neighborhood. Where you come at me, I come at you. We not running sets. Like when shit get hard, we not running sets. I got the ball, I'm coming at you. You got the ball, you coming at me. That's just how it is. And we got it. We got hoops. And I mean, and yes, Juju and Paige, they the stars, obviously. But guess what? Some of them ladies on them lady Trojans and some of them lady Huskies, they say, hey, we here too. But Leah Evans was like, hey, I'm about to be a top 5 pick now. I packed that thing too. And I can't even remember her name on 25 for USC. Like she was crossing. I was like, girl, what is you doing? I mean, I like it, but damn, you ain't gotta do that to people like that. They still gotta go to class. How you want somebody, how you gonna try to break somebody's ankle and they gotta go to class after this? Come on now. Imagine you got a busted ankle and you trying to go take chemistry, like that ain't right. You ain't gotta do that to people like that. But man, like that was just a game for real hoopers. And even the coaching, like it was just good from the tip off to the last buzzer. And it was almost as if like every time UConn went on a run, USC would answer back. When USC went on a run, UConn would answer back. And you got to a point where like maybe it was about maybe a 2.5 minute stretch where Juju was guarding Paige and Paige was guarding Juju. And they was just like, you gotta get it today. Like it's me and you. And they each of them, they was doing their thing. Like I said, like when Gil was talking about what Juju gonna do to Kayla and she gonna get hers. Guess what? You gotta understand that there's some players in this league now, they gonna get theirs too. And yeah, Juju was doing her thing. Yeah, she was 7 for 21. Honestly, I think some of the shots were because I think there were instances where her teammates wanted to boogie, and I think she allowed that, was a little passive at times. And some of her shots were difficult or late in the shot clock. I made a joke. I was like, "Is this the USC Lady Trojans or the San Antonio Spurs with Juju, unfortunately, being Wimby, where you are so dominant, but because you're so young and you're playing with some veteran players, you kind of want to be, I guess, respectful of the work they put in. That's not to say that those players for the Lady Trojans aren't good, because they are. Like, they was doing their thing too, right? But at the same time, you're the star player, and so sometimes you got to step up. And I think, that was something that I think Paige Beckers maybe took, because she's seasoned, right? She's not a freshman. She's been in college, what, 4 years now? And well, I know two of them was hurt, but she's kind of been playing for three, really, and missed, a season and stuff like that. So I kind of was like, she knew moments where I can't run the offense through these people. And like, she's been playing like a little power forward in some of their uh lineup, because UConn only has six or seven available players. Everybody else is injured, and hopefully some of them are back for the Final Four, right? But because they ended up getting the win. But seeing what Paige Beckers can do, and just her diversity as a player, that she can play from the post, she can bring the ball up, she can come off screens and off the ball, she can bookie, she can make plays for her teammates, and so she was able to do that. And again, I felt like there were stretches where she just probably had a much better understanding of the timing, and I think that just becomes, as that's just from being a seasoned vet. And so when I think about where Juju will be year three, because while she was maybe a little bit later than Paige, she was like, there was moments where she was like, give me the ball, I'm about to take over. And you know somebody said it, like, she got that Maya Moore type of just game, where she just a straight hooper, got the dribble package, got the finishing around the rim, got the midi. She can boogie with you by beyond the 3-point line and hit one in your face and strike the pose. Like, that's real hooping. Like, that stuff that, like, shit I do, that I grew up doing, that my friends, people I played against in the city did. Like, I don't care about efficiency, nigga. We all came up in the Kobe era, right? Like, we don't care about no efficiency. And do it look good? If every time you pull up, I think that's going in, I'm fine with that. And this is a young lady in Juju who is 18 years old. And she already has the physical abilities, the mental abilities of being, like, she can go pro yesterday. Like, I don't hear nothing nobody saying, like, would she have to learn, I guess, the league and how to be a professional? Sure. I'm sure that's an adjustment. But we just talking strictly basketball and how she can translate to the next level. You can't tell me that she's not gonna be a top 2 or 3 player on a team today. And I'm talking about some teams with stars. She go to the Aces, she is at least the third best player immediately at 18 years old. That's how dominant she is. Like, we had all these names coming in. Look, I heard about Juju and, like, hey, y'all gotta watch out for this freshman. And I'm like, well, man, okay. Like, everybody say you gotta watch out for the new kid on the block. Like, from day one, she has been putting her name on the map and putting the Lady Trojans on the map. And I will tell you, I thought they was damn near on their way to making it to a Final Four. I think, which would have been the first time since 1986, if I'm not mistaken. They made it to the Elite Eight for the first time since '94, the year I was born, 30 years. And here comes this 18-year-old kid that wasn't probably even thought about 30 years ago, right? And it almost takes them to the promised land. And the one thing that was in her way was a bucket name Page, because she took that game over. So, like, oh shit. Sorry. When it looked like UConn was about to give up the lead and USC is about to run away with it, she said, hell no. Like, y'all remember me? Like, before y'all was talking about the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses of the world, it was me. I was the chosen one. I was the one that was the player of the year as a freshman. I was the one that made it to the Final Four my freshman year, made it to the national title game in my second year as a sophomore. And yeah, I had two knee surgeries or whatever, put me on the shelf for a little bit, but I'm back. And I'm here to remind the world. That's what Paige Beck is saying, not me. That's what she's saying. And she's not saying that with her mouth. She's saying that with her play. And that's why I say this game was really about true hoops because guess what? You didn't see nail one. You didn't see Paige doing all that yapping and all that extra shit, which I'm fine with. I love shit talking. But Juju ain't do none of that either. They just cold blooded, not even making facial expressions. They just hooped, and I loved it. And again, much like the LSU Iowa game, we got a championship level game in the Elite Eight, folks. That's what we got. And it's hard to phantom that level of play. Again, there's some of the top teams, some of the top names, right? But that's usually what you get in a Final Four or the national title game. You do not usually get that a matchup of this magnitude in the Elite Eight. Yeah, you have some top teams, but excuse me, the star power, man, it was amazing. And so, like I said, last night was good for the game. Um, I think the storylines that came with some of these matchups was good, but I just think just the raw nature of just basketball, we just hooping UConn and USC, they was just showing you what you're supposed to do and how it's supposed to be done. And I will tell you now that we're going to the Final Four, and I will look at both matchups, and I'll start with UConn and Iowa. I'm gonna go on a limb and say the winner of that game, because we're getting another. We're essentially getting another national title game in the Final Four with that matchup. And I think the winner of that game is going to be the national champion. Um, Obviously the star power that Caitlin commands, but I think her team, if they can rally around her, make their shots, play solid defense and things like that, they can make it very difficult. I will say one thing that Iowa doesn't really do that I like what UConn does is they do run a little bit more action. And obviously that's because they have better players. Let's just be honest. UConn has better players, but they are very limited in terms of depth right now. They're going to play 6 or 7 strong. Paige Beckers might never even sit on the bench unless it's a timeout, right? So we're going to see a lot of Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark. And I've been going back and forth with this game um, and who I think might win. I will tell you with my heart, I definitely would pick UConn. I'm more of a UConn fan than I am an Iowa fan, obviously, but I didn't care about Iowa basketball. But I'm a big fan of Caitlin Clark and what she is as an individual. And I will say this. I think Gino Oriema provides an edge in this game that we aren't necessarily even talking about. He's been there before. He knows how to get his players in the best positions to succeed and how, yeah, I have a star player, but I'm always going to take that mentality of the person that's hot is who we rolling with. But I also know that Caitlin Clark is in a mode right now where she will not be denied, right? Where it's something that she's coming for. She's coming for all the glory. She has the records. She wants that title. She does not want to end her career as being known as just a person that scored a lot of points. She wants that to translate to championships. Guess what? Paige Becker, someone who has not yet won that elusive championship. She's been here twice and has not won. So it's a lot that these young ladies are playing for. And I'm just gonna go with my heart on this one. I'm gonna go with UConn. I know they're under matched from a depth standpoint, but I think their front line, I think they're just their core group can hold with Iowa and what they bring. I think when it comes from matching point for point, see, what LSU didn't have this year that they had last year, they had Alexis Morris matching point for point. And then, of course, you had Angel Reese doing her thing down low, obviously healthy. I think they have a more big and Aaliyah Edwards that has more tools in her bag. She can shoot the mid range. So you can't necessarily play off of her and pack the paint. And I think what Paige can do, scoring the ball in ISO situations, not even needing the screen, being a playmaker coming off ball, I'm gonna go with UConn in this one. 71. No, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna go with UConn this one. 85 to 83. That's what I'm going. And to close it out, I will say that I think I talked about North Carolina State and South Carolina. I'm just going. I'd be stupid not to pick South Carolina. I would, but it's just something. I want this on record, right? I want this on record that it's something about North Carolina State that worries me. That makes me think that they just might pull it off, but I'm not there yet. And I think South Carolina, the Lady Gamecocks, will win this game by, it might be close the first three quarters. I think veteran leadership, I think coaching ends up becoming the edge. I think they pull away and end up winning by like 12 or 13. I won't give you like an actual score, but I think USC wins or SC wins by about 12 or 13 points, which would then give you a South Carolina UConn matchup. I will be the fool and pick against South Carolina this time. I'm going with UConn to finish the job and win the national championship. And I truly believe, like I've already said, the winner of that UConn Iowa matchup will win the national championship. I just feel strongly about it. It's like when Peyton and Brady went at it, you knew the winner of that game was winning the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, you know the winner of that game is likely winning the Super Bowl. I think that's where we are now. Caitlin Clark, Paige Becker's led teams. One of those teams will win, obviously, on Friday. But I also believe the winner of that game will meet the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. Title, undefeated, on the line. I think SC finishes with that blemish of one on that record. And I think UConn ultimately, because I do have them beating Iowa. But if Iowa wins, I do have Iowa winning that championship. But one of those two teams will reign victorious as the national champion. There it is. Last of the women's tournament predictions. Friday, I'm gonna get an episode in. We're gonna talk about the men's. I can guarantee you it's not gonna be as long because Duke's out and I'm pissed. So I ain't even trying to talk about all these guys like that. But I will do the respectable thing and not be that bitter and at least give these players their due. But here's a sneak peek. UConn men's is going to win too. But I'll tell you about the journey and how we get to that point. All right. Because there are some matchups in that North Carolina State Purdue game that I'm excited to see and talk about. But in that, man, that's all I got. Again, hell of a weekend of college basketball, especially women's college basketball. Uh, Want to take time out to thank the women that just make this world great, right? Um, Obviously, my lovely wife, my mother, my sister, aunts, cousins, all of them. But even from a professional standpoint and seeing what some of these young women are doing for the game that I love, right? You know, what Angel and Flaw J are doing and at LSU, obviously what Caitlin's done for the game. Um, I don't know if you can even truly measure it, but you got kids like Hannah Hidalgo and Juju Watkins coming up in full Wally. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that from South Carolina. And Michaela Williams again at LSU. The game is in good hands. I don't think because we have these stars and we got used to that star power that when they graduate and go on to whether it's the WNBA or doing other adventures in their postgraduate years that we're going to lose this steam. I think we're going to keep it because there's so many great ones coming up the pipeline that we haven't even begin to truly understand what they're bringing this game to and where it will be by the time that they're done and setting the stage for the next um, batch of young female athletes coming in. So, really love where the game is in. Thank y'all so much for going through the bullshit. Let's just be honest what it is. Going through the bullshit, whether it's sexism for the black players, the racism that comes along with that shit, the misogyny for people saying, "Oh, well, the girls gotta look pretty" and all that type of stuff, and some of the crazy stuff that these women are going through. Like it's not even verbally; it's like people making AI generated photos and all these stupid ass scenarios of trying to sexualize them or I would date her or I would do that. Like that's just stuff that truly men don't have to really go through. And it's a shame that um, these young women that are just trying to play a kid's game. And much like male professional athletes, they want to take their family out of poverty and or do better for themselves and wear that name, that last name on the back of their jersey proudly and make their family and their friends and their loved ones proud. And that's all they're trying to do. And it's just some idiots that are just trying to ruin it, and ruin what they built. And shout out to them for saying hell no, banding together on this shit, being a united front, and calling some of this bullshit for what it is, and just that bullshit. So, thank y'all so much for growing the game, just growing just an understanding of what women, the ones that are in our lives and the ones that we don't know, what they truly go through on a day to day. And so, stay up, stay blessed. Um, if there's anything I said that offended anyone, that's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.